Hello learners, welcome to ESC 309D Assessment in Maths Education. In Unit 1 of this course, we'll be looking at basic concepts of assessment and some important concepts in assessment such as definition of assessment, measurement, evaluation, purpose of assessment, principles of assessment, and why classroom assessment. Section 1 of Unit 1, we are looking at definition of assessment. Session objectives. By the end of this session, as a mathematics teacher or learner, you should be able to define and explain the definition of assessment in mathematics, discuss some important instructional implications of the various definitions we are going to discuss. Definition of assessment. In attempt to define assessment, several definitions have been offered by renowned scholars. Among such definitions include the following, and they are not limited. We have a number of them. We can search them on some books and internet. So in the first of the definition we are going to look at is Coase and Harper 2000. They refer to assessment as a set of devices or tools which are employed to measure learner achievement. So you have your students, you want to measure the achievement, how well they have understood the concept you've taught them. There are so many ways you can do. So doing so is what Coase and Harper refer to as assessment. The next one is Minkowski, also define assessment. He view assessment as a set of processes designed to improve, demonstrate, and inquire about student learning. A set of process designed to improve. So when you have a laid down procedure or steps that you can use to inquire about student learning, then Minkowski says that is an assessment. Now Lane and Gronlund 2000, they refer to assessment as any of a variety of procedures used to obtain information about student performance. So they are all talking about the same thing. Various devices, process, a set of process, and also finally Lane and Ground is also talking about variety of procedures. You can see assessment is actually following the same thing, a variety of procedures, a set of devices that we use to obtain student or learners outcome or their performance. And we are looking at assessment in mathematics education as compared to definition of assessment. How will you define assessment in mathematics education? Now, assessment in maths education is the process of gathering and interpreting evidence using various assessment techniques to make judgments about student learning outcomes, curriculum aims and objectives, and instructional practice. Now, I've both assessment techniques. So, what do you think are the various assessment techniques? So, I leave that one with you, discuss with your colleagues. What are various assessment techniques? The assessment process requires consideration of not just what we are assessing and how we are doing it. Particularly, we are talking about the methods and approaches, but also why. And that why refers to our rationale for assessing on any particular occasion, any context. So assessment is not just focusing on the methods and approaches, but also focusing on why. Why are we conducting the assessment? That is according to Brown 2005. We have a number of reasons why we conduct mathematics assessment. So why do you conduct assessment? Take your pencil and write down at least 3 reasons why we think we conduct mathematics assessment. You've been doing class exercise, class tests with your students, end of semester examination, WESI, University of Cape Coast, quizzes, you've written semester exams. Why do you write all this? Why do you conduct for your student? So in the first place, we are saying that assessment is a process of finding out what your students know about a topic you are teaching or have taught. You've taught your students. How will you know that what you've taught your student, they forget the concepts, or you want to know the RPK, their knowledge, previous knowledge. So based on the previous knowledge, you can add up. You can make simple assessments and know their knowledge in the topic. Before you teach or after the topic, you can do that to know whether they have mastered the concept very well. Assessment is intended to provide a teacher an opportunity to communicate to students what they are expected to learn, know, and be able to do about a given topic. So you give them a topic. For instance, you are teaching simultaneous equation. You want students to know about simultaneous equation. So you conduct assessments on the simultaneous equation based on what you've studied, the method you have employed. Now to know whether students have understood the concepts or not, and how well they are learning that simultaneous equation. Assessment is about the teaching process and student learning outcomes. Through the teaching process and the outcomes, you teach students, you know their outcomes. How will you measure the outcomes? Through assessment. You get to know through assessment, you know that students are actually following the concept or not. And also through assessment, you can modify your teaching process or techniques to suit the student. Assessment provides information for improving your teaching and supporting students' learning. As I've already explained, assessment provides information to both students and you, the teacher. So you want to conduct assessment, it enables you, the teacher, to know your students' level based on the concept you've taught, whether they've understood the concept or not. And also the students, it will help the students to know whether they are on the right path, whether they are also learning very well, and if they have also achieved something. You conduct assessment, you mark it, you give the students, you give them feedback. The feedback is very, very important. The feedback will send a message to the students. Well, they have done well or they are not, and where they need to improve on. Then the teacher, where the student need to improve on, you tell them or you capture that one in your next lesson. Assessment is not something done to students only. However, it is an interactive process between you and your student. Therefore, it is important that assessment has a fit for a purpose. This statement is according to Brown. So assessment should have a fit for a purpose. Why? Why should assessment have a fit for a purpose? And we are saying that assessment should offer opportunities for you and your student, the teacher, math teacher, and your students and other stakeholders to determine the extent to which students have learned what they are expected to learn, the extent to which they can demonstrate what they have learned, how best to plan students' subsequent learning experiences. So with these three things together, then we say assessment should have a fit for a purpose. So in this session, we've looked at definitions of assessment, various definitions of assessments, that is Coase and Harper 2000, Minkowski, Lin and Gronland 2000. We also look at assessment in mass education, why classroom assessment, and why assessment should have a fit for a purpose. So this brings us to the end of Session 1 of Unit 1. In the next section, we'll be looking at definition of measurement in mathematics. So you go and read around what is measurement in your own words.